Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back for Talking Tactics, many of your favourite show of the week. But unfortunately, we are not reporting on a victory again. We are reporting on the fact that we've hit 6,000 subscribers on the channel. So please, thank you so much for your support. And please do continue to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. Next stop, 10,000 subscribers. That's where we're on the road to. So once again, thank you for your support. But hey, please continue to help us grow. But as I said, Gareth, a 3-0 defeat this time to Crystal Palace. What is it with Oliver Glasner and Unai Emery and Crystal Palace and Aston Villa?
Yeah, it seems to have been a recent year bogey side, didn't they, really, for us? Yeah, just don't know. Again, it's just the same scenario as what we reported on last time out, and it really just sort of can't sort of create much. Sort of, we can dominate possession, but that's about as positive as it gets. We can't seem to put a ball in the net for love of money.
Yeah, well, let's get straight into it because I also want to get your opinion on the deadline day signings that we've made. So I don't want to spend too much time on this game, to be fair, but let's look at the tail of the tape because you mentioned quite a lot of possession, quite a lot of territory, but unfortunately not a great deal of clear-cut chances. Is that what the kind of stats are telling us as well?
Yeah, I mean, the stats that the top sort of three, if you like, are the stats you want to see as high as you can. I mean, you can see the amount of passes, the 69% of the field tilt again, and I think I've dominated a bit more possession than what it says there over in parts. So it is what it is, but it's just, again, it's just we're not sort of seeing any progress from the possession of the football. That's what matters the most. It's not sort of ending up in situations where it really needs to.
Yeah. And then the passing networks, I guess lots of passes there from Ezri Konsarat to Matty Cash, but was there the connections with the sort of new players that came in, Marlon and Gesson and the rest of the team? Is that something that we kind of to be expected, that they weren't quite on the same wavelength?
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, to be expected. You can say that. I mean, the highest pass count was from Konsa to Cash. You were right. So that, I don't know how many it was, but it was the highest in the team. So yeah, it was difficult to sort of see that build up down that right hand side. We don't seem to use Maatsen or Digne so much nowadays, which is, I think we're a better team with Luca Digne in it. You'd say attack wise. I just don't see, like you say, those connections to the wide players. I just don't see that, and especially Watkins is becoming that bit more isolated all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see here. Like, if you look at the number of passes that were made between these kind of 6 players here, and then hardly any passes going into the attacking 4, and then I know this is minute 1 to 46, but I highlighted this against Brentford that there just didn't seem to be any movement or rotation of positions with the front 4 or the front 5 if you put McGinn going forward.
Yeah, you've just got sort of, for me on Sunday was Gesson and Marlon was very static in wide areas. They didn't seem to want to move inside or rotate with Rodgers in either way. He seemed to stick more to that sort of left-hand side. Watkins wasn't being found, but we talked about it before. Those central passes from Tielemans into Rodgers on the turn, who then plays in wide players or Watkins. We don't even see that anymore.
No.
And that's what works well for us.
Yeah, very disappointing. I know you've got a couple of different sonars here. So this is minute 1 to 46. Anything that you particularly noticed here that highlights what we were talking about earlier?
Well, let's just look. I mean, you highlighted them 6 players, didn't you? Look at the amount of passes they're playing compared to the 3 further up the pitch. That's where your connection's being lost, and the passes are either coming back, They're not going forward. We're not seeing fullbacks in higher positions. You can just see that those passes are being spread again laterally. Now, again, we saw that again last time out, didn't we? You highlighted that. It's being passed across the pitch a lot, but it's not being passed forwards enough.
Yeah.
It's simple.
And yeah. And then what's this one? 46 to 84. Any change in that? No. I know Buendia offered a bit more. Was there any change in that?
So here you can see that we've created then that box midfield again, haven't we? That's what we were trying to do there. But again, you've got sort of Luca Digne, who's then now playing in his high wide position, which is okay. But again, look at those 4 players that we can see there. You could say 5 who are playing passes, not higher volume, not into forward directions. It's not really going anywhere.
Yeah. And was that to do with, because I'll bring Palace's Sono in a second, is that to do with the fact that Crystal Palace was so good at screening the spaces, not letting it through? Or was it to do with Aston Villa just not risking enough in terms of like trying to punch the passes into the players, or maybe try and break the lines by beating one of those players?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, like, I'll sit on the fence. It's probably a bit of both, but I thought Palace were excellent, both defensively and offensively. I thought they were really good. They soaked it up. And you can just see it there. It is basically a wall, isn't it, of just Crystal Palace players. And they know what they're doing. And also what I noticed is, look at that space. They're denying that space between that back 3 and the rest of the field of the players that they've got. They're denying that space in which Rodgers and that like to operate. That's where you've got to use wide areas and use Watkins over the top. Do that a bit more if you're facing a mid block like that.
Yeah. I always think sometimes as well, like just like an old fashioned centre forward that you can play it into, who can flick it on, or make himself a nuisance, so you've got second balls that are a bit more difficult to win for the opposition, because then they might mess up a clearance or give the ball away because that player's just making a nuisance of themselves. Something, I guess, what Mateta does for them.
And I think the answer would have been John Duran. I think he probably would have been that player who would have caused them a lot more problems.
Yeah, definitely. The tail of the tape in terms of the momentum, and Villa fairly controlled in terms of the possession and like you said, the territory, but real sporadic periods of threat and just not enough.
No, I mean, we're looking at, on average, we're looking at slightly better numbers than last time out. But again, it's not enough. And you're seeing that teams, when they have these momentary sort of moments of expected threat, they're posting these numbers, they're scoring the goals, whereas we're not doing that.
Yeah. And then in terms of like, I guess the whole situation with the shots. I mean, 13 shots for Villa. You could say 4 on target. Was it a couple of big chances? I can think of the Ollie Watkins chance. I can't really think of another big chance. Maybe it was at Yuri Tielemans' free header.
It was Tielemans, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, Palace, like you say, limited number of shots. But if you look at where they're having them from, generally, it's a lot more threatening than us.
Yeah, and we point out we said a lot about last season about the big chances being taken, and again we can see we've had the 2 there, but we've missed the 2 there. So this is the story towards the end of last season, isn't it?
It shows you how important that first goal is, or how important replying quickly with a goal to get yourself back on level terms is. This is the criticism sometimes of the Premier League. Teams now will just go 1-0 up and sort of shut up shop and just not commit too many men forward and just wait to be broken down, which you can understand because every point matters. But it's Villa have got to find a way to break them down, and just haven't been able to do that in the last 2 games.
No, we just can't seem to do it. No, I can't disagree with you.
Yeah. Defensive shape in terms of out of possession, average defensive action height, anything. I mean, is that a bit of a mess from Villa compared to sort of the organisation of Palace, or is that expected?
No.
What do you think?
I think the Villa one is a bit of a mess. I mean, defensively, the thing is, the 3 goals were just moments, weren't they?
Yes.
They weren't like build-ups of pressure that Palace had or anything like that. They were just moments. So to monitor a defensive shape, I think is quite hard to sort of use as a reason for the loss in this game.
Yeah, fair enough. And then the goalkeeping performance, Marco Bizot, obviously Unai Emery was ready to sort of claim his name at the start of the match rather than talk about Emi Martinez. Should he have done better with some of the goals?
Possibly. I think you could point to the data there saying that he faced 2.45 expected goals on target, but yet prevented minus numbers, which is obviously not good compared to what Dean Henderson's done there. So he has to take his share of that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the penalty, you could argue, got caught out a little bit. So that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, I think he'd probably... The second goal, I don't know how well he could have done with that, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you said, it's about moments, isn't it? And that's the difficulty to sort of judge the goalkeeper.
Yeah, and what we should say is probably 0.79 of that is the penalty. Even so, that still leaves a quite a high number, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, all in all, like we said, kind of outthought again. Unai Emery outthought again by Oliver Glasner. I mean, he can't seem to beat him. And we're saying here about getting the ball wide, getting it wide a bit quicker, players being a bit more of a nuisance. And we just can't seem to adapt.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because we all thought that Donyell Marlon might be that player to sort of drag us forward. And ironically, as we said, it was a game for the likes of Leon Bailey again, wasn't it? To sort of grab hold of the ball and take players on down into those spaces either side of Gahey, and was it not Rodgers? What's his Richards, the other centre half. So they were the spaces that you could attack and drag people in and out, but there wasn't those runners to be able to do that. Was there, and it was a shame. It was crying out for wide men, really, again.
Are you a little bit disappointed with the sort of lack of movement in the game of the likes of Watkins and Rodgers in particular? Just because I guess you can maybe excuse Marlon and Gesson a little bit because they've not really played very often and they probably were under instruction for Emery to kind of hold their position. But Rodgers and Watkins, I mean, if the game's not going for you, you've got to try and get yourself involved in the game. Like I saw Watkins make runs off the shoulder a couple of times, but I didn't see him drop deep for the ball. I didn't see him, the way that Crystal Palace was set up, it needed someone to like drop off the line like Watkins does, and then someone to run in behind him, make like deeper runs, like McGinn try and run in behind or Tielemans run in behind. It needed something like that.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I think one of McGinn or Tielemans has to be that player. Is it going to be Tielemans? No, he's probably going to hold back and support. So then it's going to be up to McGinn to do that. Well, that's where you miss Onana really in that team, because then Tielemans could do that job sort of for him. But the midfield thing is a problem. I think there was needed to be more support from behind as well as anything. I think it's all very well we could blame Watkins and Rodgers for their lack of on-the-ball activity and off the ball, but I think it needed support from behind a little bit more, and maybe Gesson and Marlon to come inside that bit more.
Yeah, diagonal runs, definitely, at pace. Hopefully though, with this, I don't want to use the transfer window as an excuse for players, because ultimately they're professionals, have got to get the job done. It's not good enough in terms of performance level. But there was a lot of noise around the club. There was probably a bit of uncertainty about who was leaving as it's transpired. The likes of Emi Martinez, Ramsey leaving sort of quite last minute, and then Leon Bailey kind of not really knowing where he was going and not really knowing who was coming in. Now we have managed to, make the signings of the likes of Sancho, Lindelof, and obviously Harvey Elliott. How do you feel about those three signings? Obviously we signed Gesson and Bizot before that, but how do you feel about these three signings, particularly in terms of deadline day and what they're going to bring to the club?
Yeah, Harvey Elliott excites me. I've always liked him. I think he's a really good player on the ball. And I think he is that one player who could add that bit of a spark. Lindelof, okay. Do we need another centre half? Probably. Is he decent? He's half decent, So we could probably say he's a sort of Clement Longley. I think we saw in the chat, didn't we? I think we spoke about that. So that's a sort of a fit, if you like. Jadon Sancho, I'm just not so sure about. I think too many clubs, too many sort of promises made. Can he still do it at us? Don't know. Marcus Rashford maybe sort of performed quite well for us. If anyone can get a tune out of him, maybe it is Unai Emery. But let's face it, a lot of others have tried.
And from an analyst point of view, particularly say Sancho and Elliott, what do they bring? Because, like I said, I did a bit of a reaction myself to the signings earlier, so people check that out if you can. But I don't quite know what Sancho does. He's not particularly fast. He doesn't assist that much, particularly in the Premier League, and he doesn't score that much. So, yeah, he's got a trick in him. Yes, he might be able to scare one or two defenders, so maybe it opens up space for other players. But I don't know. I don't know what he brings. Elliot,
No.
like you say, a bit of a spark. Wants to now push on with his career, so I can understand that. He's got a bit of arrogance about him. But again, is he a attacking midfielder? Is he a wide player? Is he a midfielder? Like, that's probably where he needs to establish himself as well.
Yeah, I think sort of let's start with Elliot. I think he'll probably play in a Morgan Rogers type role. Maybe he will be the tip of that box midfield, if you like, with him and Rogers. I would imagine. I just don't know how Jadon Sancho does fit into that. I think I'm probably more along the lines of he will play in that Rashford position off the left-hand side. That's probably where I would imagine. He's not a centre forward, like you say. He doesn't create that much. Like you say, he's got a trick in him. That's probably about it. But so you are therefore really relying on Unai Emery, like I say, to get a tune out of him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as I said, I hope it's a manager who will have hopefully a specific plan for him. Will ask him to do a specific job, and maybe it's a type of manager that someone like Sancho needs, who will kind of give him some real direction and ask him to do a specific thing, and maybe that's something that will help him rather than sort of say, right, I'll just give him the ball and let him do whatever. Some players really do react positively to having a set of instructions and flourish in that way. So look, absolutely, it's really good that we've managed to get some players in. It's probably not in all essence what I wanted. I wanted more pace and maybe a bit more strength up top in terms of nuisance factor and being able to play in behind off the shoulder. But look, we need options, because you looked at that bench on Sunday and that was pretty woeful.
Yeah, and the concern is again that we've highlighted on this show before. What happens now if Ollie Watkins gets injured? It's exactly a big thing. I know centre forwards are at a premium; they cost money, but you've got to try and get a loan deal done. I think that's probably why they looked at Jackson. God knows why, but that's probably why they looked at Jackson. I do that worries me again, especially with the Europa. The Europa coming up as well. If something happens to Watkins, what is the plan B?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we maybe can hold out till January, see what we can do there, see where we are in the league, see where we are in the Europa League, and then maybe there's a bit more scope or a bit more room to manoeuvre as the season goes on. But Gareth, once again, thank you very much for your insight. Thank you very much for all the work that you do. This again is a sample of the visuals that you provide. Where can people find the rest of the information from the Palace game if they dare look at it?
Yeah, I'll put them up there on that one, Villa Analysis. Whether people want to look at it is entirely up to them.
Well, we've got international break. We've then got the small matter of Everton away, which is the return of Jack Grealish facing Aston Villa in fine form. So, yeah, that will be an interesting one, but it'll be a great way to kickstart the season. So we will be here with everything to do with that game, previews, reactions, talking tactics, of course. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, get your comment in as well, your thoughts on that Palace game, and Unai Emery once again getting out-thought by Oliver Glasner. Thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.